So the question is, from everything I've heard, it sounds like cohesive game design struggles the bigger a dev team gets. Now, first of all, if you're a solo developer, yeah, that's the easiest for sure, right? Because unless you get blackout drunk and you forget everything that you just did, yeah, you kind of have the design in your head. Now, as it grows, you normally get good kind of little mixing because people understand the big goal, but they have ideas about it, and you kind of feed that in and that grows. But let's talk about for a minute here kind of how really big companies solve this. Because it's kind of interesting, right? Because like when you're a kid, you're like, man, I'm going to go work at that giant company and they're not going to know what I'm doing and I'm just going to go hide in the corner and never do any work because there's like 10,000 employees. Then you realize, oh, there's a structure, right? There's a hierarchy. I have a boss who's a boss who's a boss who's a boss who's a boss, right? That's the good and bad side of it. And so some companies use this, right? Microsoft is I have a friend who worked there as a writer, and they weren't the lowest rung writer, but there was like 12 levels of just writer, story, narrative, all had like, maybe it's changed, maybe it's different. And I won't name the studio, but I'm just saying like, I wouldn't even know who was in charge of me, right? And so I think, honestly, that's come out in some of what came out of there. But some companies do it really well. And I think the three that I'll use as an example is one's Ubisoft. I like Ubisoft, by the way, if you haven't noticed. It's okay to like big, giant things sometimes. It is. You don't have to be all the cool kids and just like the most obscure stuff. But so Ubisoft does it. This is guessing a little bit and a little bit of talking with people, right? So they have some hierarchy. They have groups, right? There's the lead designer and then or director, and then everybody falls underneath and stuff, right? But they simplify the problem in a way. And they're kind of genius about this is they say, we've got money, we've got items, we've got karma, and we have experience. I think those are the four they use the most. Just make a system that feeds into that. So here, I'm replaying Far Cry 4. I got to go around and I got to ring some bells or spin some bells. Nobody like had to check the design. Like, I had to spin it. Who cares? Just you're going to go do something, and that's going to get you money or karma, or it's going to unlock things, right? And there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do there. And they give a whole bunch of missions. They do. And it's cool, right? Because they're all varied. I call it like the palette of choices. That's why I like their games often. Because you wake up and you're like, I don't feel like shooting people. I feel like hunting animals, rarely. Or I feel like going on a race or whatever. And you don't have to care about that design. That design can be local to that group. Because they're all going to be on the, like, hey, we're just making this little part of it. And our output feeds into the bigger design. Because the bigger design is about what you do and how you go through that thing, right? And that's where I think in some of their games where they've faltered is they've broken that and they've tried to make it have a different flow and they've ruined that kind of thing, right? So in a way, it's that meta design that's kind of beautiful in a way that just lets them fill in with those kind of four things into any system. And so then I remember Far Cry 6, you're like lighting up some lights or something. It made no sense to me, but I did it because I wanted the output of it, right? And you're like, yeah, whatever. Our brains are malleable that way. We accept things. Now, another way to do it is like the Call of Duty way. Now, Call of Duty, inside of the teams, I have no idea. But like overall, they just break it up, right? They're like, this entire company is going to make this game. This entire company is going to make this game. We're going to make 72 games inside of here. There's a version of Mule inside of this game. It's cool. Whatever. And I don't think that necessarily works that well because they still have the problem inside of that. And they have a problem and they try to mix things. I'm going to use one example. Some stuff they do really well, but some stuff I have problems with. So DMZ. When DMZ first came out, and Dan's like, hey, we should go play DMZ, and we did. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And we played DMZ all the time. I would solo DMZ. It was awesome. I just thought it was an amazing game mode. And then they made it super hardcore, and it wasn't as fun. And now I think they deprecated it, and now it's the zombie mode, and it's just not the same thing to me. I think it's the zombie mode. Seriously, there's so many games in that UI. If they could afford it. I don't know how you install that UI problem, so never mind. All right. But they then took a lot of those elements and said, hey, this is really working. People like this. Let's bring this into the single player game. And I think it failed miserably there. And I'll use, again, Ubisoft as the example here is Ubisoft, when you're going to go take over a base, I guarantee you there's a high point that you can vantage point if you want to. You don't have to, but you can look at the whole base. You can mark people. You can mark things. You can have strategy. Because you don't have real agency unless you have information. If you don't have information, you just have reaction. But if you actually want to have agency that you can plan missions, you have to have information. Ubisoft knows this. Ubisoft's really good about this. Go look at like where all their bases are and stuff. It's beautiful. Call of Duty didn't do that. You're just like, I don't know. I'm just going to keep going until I find something that's going to be all random and shit. to me, it loses agency and it becomes reactive, and then it becomes about my Twitch skills versus my intelligence. And as I get older, my Twitch skills are dwindling. And so I don't care for those as much. And I found their single player, actually, I stopped playing it at a certain point. I didn't feel like it had as much agency. I keep meaning I should rip apart and compare the two so you can see. But that was a little bit of a letdown. Other parts of the game are fine. But then there is Fortnite. And Fortnite's like, we got one game. We got a giant. Now, I know there's the building part. I was horrible at that. So, I didn't like that. And it's not my kind of game because it ends up, for me, shotgun blasts near, I don't know. I don't gel with the game. It's fine. You're not allowed to not like games. You are. Yeah. And guess what? I don't need to get a tattoo that says I hate Fortnite. I can just be like, yeah, I just don't play Fortnite. But I used to watch Fortnite. But now, so here's their problem. They're everybody's game, right? They are kids, they are adults, they are everybody's game. That game is so big that they have to think about their audience differently. And for them, that means sanitizing their design. Now, they have crazy amount of design in there. There's a bunch of stuff all over the place. And their whole way of design literally is, we'll just make this temporary, and if it doesn't work, we'll yank it out. Or even if it does work, we yank it out. The giant balls that go around, we yank this out. This is a monorail system, we yank this out. But like now, I used to watch streams, and I can't watch streams anymore because they put in some like rock band thing in it. And the people playing it seem like they're really having fun. They're really grooving, and they're just playing really bad songs that I hated when they came out, and I don't like them anymore now. And I don't like watching people play bad versions of them. And they're like not playing the game anymore. So the competitive side's gone. I'm not saying that. I'm just watching people play bad rock band. I'm like, I gotta go see that someplace else. And so they have this design problem that is different. They're so big that they've got to kind of sanitize it down. So in a way that doesn't work, but it also works for them clearly because it's super successful. And so their whole thing is like, we're gonna put crazy movement in. Oh my God, we made movement too crazy. Let's just take it all out. Like, that's kind of genius, right? Like, they throw so much stuff in that game and then they just rip it back out. And they can do it because people are accustomed to it now. They train people to accept that. And that is the brilliance. Out of all the design of Fortnite, the most brilliant part of it is they taught people to say it's okay for this thing to be in here and then take it out. And that's how they get around that design problem. Because that game is a mismatch, crazy mix-up of everything, right? It is the most sanitized version of Batman you're going to see, or Raiders of the Lost Ark, or whatever, right? But again, super successful and it works, and that's fine. That's fine. It doesn't click with me. But so I think that's an interesting way if you think about, like, I don't think there's a learning for smaller devs how to think about this, because that's one of those things of like big devs can do these kind of things. I would say system design where you have inputs that you can just have other systems given is sure, this is something you would take away. But yeah. It's interesting looking at those big companies and seeing like who does that successfully and who struggles and what works and what's successful but you don't want to do. I don't know. I'm kind of curious if anyone has other examples of things that have worked at a high level or not. Because for the most part, I'm trying to think of design that I just really didn't gel with. And there's not that many games. And there's games that I just don't click with. Someone asked, do I always wear black t-shirts? And I'd say a lot of, and the reason why is when you have a black cat, even a short-haired black cat, even a guy, I know, oh, he's making donuts. See, it looks like he's pushing away, but he's really making donuts on my face and it hurts. But yeah, you've got black cats, you're gonna have black shirts. And hey, so the whole Steve Jobs thing of like, hey, oh my God, I wear the same thing every day, so I don't think about it when the decision's made. He shaved. You know how much shaving takes? Yeah, I don't think about that. Divorce. Okay, little man. No, you good? All right.